Hi, I'm Mariya. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Accelerate Marketing, digital agency that focuses in on LinkedIn marketing.
And I help business owners and entrepreneurs generate leads for their business and increase their revenue by helping them plan, implement, and execute strategies and tactics that they need. All right, so today we're talking a little bit about working from home and kind of pivoting into online business. I think that would be
Yeah.
So I had a few questions actually come in. I posted this in Instagram stories yesterday to see if anybody had some questions. So one question I had was, can anyone work from home full time, even during this time? You know, there's a lot of people that are able to switch, but what about if you're starting from scratch and working from home for the first time? So that's pretty much where I started my business, was just kind of like out of the blue. I had a situation from home that forced me to work from home. I had to figure out what it was I was going to do. And I mean, I did a lot of different things and I juggled a lot of different things to try to find out where I wanted to be at.
I think that starting from scratch, working from home, right now is the perfect opportunity because a lot of people have a lot of time, whether you got laid off or your actual work is transitioning to home. You want to start your own thing, you still have some income. When I first started my company, briefly, I was working from home soon after I quit because I hated what I was doing. But having an opportunity to work from home, make some income while you're getting started, I think now is the perfect time.
Yeah. And there's a lot of companies that, like, when you really get down to it, you do have to be careful for scams because they're out there and they're out there in full effect right now. I think with everything going on, I mean, it's crazy how many emails that you'll get, but they'll be misspelled or they'll be, just unreasonable requests and demands. You just have to be watchful of those. But there's companies, like I worked for Alorica at home for a short while there as a call center agent and with Working Solutions. And those are two companies that genuinely have built a company around working from home and call center agents from home.
Okay, so we're talking about working from home. It can be either a blessing or not a blessing.
Or because, I mean, it can feel really like hard getting started, and I've had very doubtful moments, but you just keep at it and you keep searching and you keep connecting and networking with people on the online communities, and you'll find there's groups you can find a lot of work from home job listings on. There's a lot of resources these days that I don't think there were like a few years ago, like when I got started. There's definitely more so now. And a lot of companies are creating, remote opportunities now with COVID going on. They're trying to adapt as quickly as they can, just like we all are.
Yeah. Well, what would you say your biggest time management challenge has been working from home?
Oh, yeah. That would be the biggest and most important first challenge that I probably endured because it was really great and fluffy and, work from my pajamas, in my bed, never even have to move at first. And that's great. But then I realized to run a business and just to be successful working from home, I was going to have to adapt a routine for myself. And that's the biggest thing, is just being able to set a schedule, set up a planning day like once a week where you're structuring out the rest of your week. And like how I actually figured out to do it best for myself is by batching tasks in like certain categories of types of tasks. Like if I'm creating content, I do it all at one time and before I move on to another task, because for me, I can get real off task all throughout the day trying to do 50,000 things. You feel like you're doing a lot, but you're just spinning your wheels. And the biggest thing is just figuring out what works best for you. Like I had to personally separate my comfort space, like where I'm comfy and I watch TV and all that, from a room that it was quiet. Because, the reality is there's distractions at home. Some people have kids and animals, and that's just the reality of it. But structuring when I would get up each day, get dressed like as if I was going to a regular job, get at my computer, and have a structure for how I would go about my most prioritized tasks. And then at the end of the day, being able to shut off and go home in a sense and experience something else than work.
Yeah. So I posted on LinkedIn the other day about feeling burned out. And
Yeah.
I got a ton of response, a lot of really good suggestions. So I want to ask you, what do you do when you feel burned out?
I think ultimately we've all experienced burnout once or twice. And for those that are struggling with it for the first time, I think the biggest thing is being able to network with your community, really leverage, because it can feel lonely sometimes, a lot of the time, if you're just constantly at your desk in a room by yourself. It can be the reality of working from home, but the way you avoid burning out in that is by choosing to do something that you love doing to begin with. It took me a long time to figure out where I wanted to be when I first started as a call center agent. I knew that was not something I permanently wanted to do. I've just always truly worked better for myself, rather than having someone trying to micromanage me. I needed to flourish, and like the corporate environment, honestly, I hated. I don't know about you. I hated like a corporate environment.
I wasn't a huge fan.
No. And it's a collapsing system for a reason. There's a reason that a lot of people are stepping away and we're trying to start their own businesses before this COVID-19 crisis came about. And I still think there's a ton of opportunity. It's just about being able to pivot or start from scratch with something that you love to do.
Yeah, I think that you're on point with that. I was not taking any time away. I was working too much, and I think that I needed to, like what you said before, go home when it's time to go home. Stop working. Don't work 17 hours days because you're at home.
It can real quick turn into like not showering, just stuck at your computer, depression. It can turn into a lot of those things, especially for some of us like me. I've struggled with depression before, so it can feel really ruddish if you're not doing something you love to do and shutting off at the end of the day like you would with a regular job.
Yeah, so that brings the mental health piece of it in. What do you do to stay? I mean, you gave good examples of how to not burn out, but if you do burn out and you're starting to feel your mental health decreasing,
like on the video games when it's like their mental health is rising.
Yeah.
But the main thing with that, and that can be the dark side of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship's great, and running a business is great, but you've got to be in it because you love it, and you've got to be giving yourself to something you love and still structuring yourself so that you're taking care of yourself. It really is a big aspect for me to have to shut off after a certain time, especially when I wake up and like I'm having a middle of the night creative spurt. I'm not going to say those don't happen because those are great. Some of us get our most important work done during those little periods, but at the same time, it's just about structuring yourself for your own health. Like if you need to actually write down a schedule in front of you, like I have to do this. I have to have a set schedule that I can look at. In the morning time, I get dressed, have a morning routine, breakfast, everything like I would on, if I wasn't just getting up and coming to my computer room. I take the time to wake up, and I've structured my day now to actually reflect the hours I work the best, because it's not always that everyone's a morning person, but owning your own business, you're able to set your own hours to a certain extent. And being able to set up breaks for yourself, actually getting up and taking those breaks, walking away from the computer for a few minutes, taking a nap if you want to set up and schedule a nap, because I've grown to love my naps. And
nap. I'll just sleep for like 7 hours.
I always end up taking like a 30-minute nap somewhere in the day.
Power naps.
Yeah. And I usually wake up and I'll probably eat a snack right after that too, and like setting up like healthy eating throughout the day so that you're actually keeping your brain powered. And at the end of the day, you shut off and you enjoy something else, and you try to genuinely think about something else. Don't just get stuck at your computer desk for hours. That was a huge part of me being able to make this work for myself.
So what was your number one motivator? What motivates you currently to get up and do it, put yourself in that harder than normal situation?
Yeah. Well, see, and then there's a lot of people that right now, this crisis has completely flipped their lives. But there is a way to stay focused. You stay connected with your community. Also, for me, it hasn't changed that much. I was already at a point where I was at home all the time, working from home and kind of structuring my life around, this kind of lifestyle anyway. But for a lot of people, I know that has changed. And the way you get through this is by staying connected, staying healthy, staying active. Like, I think yesterday or the day before, I was just telling my husband, I'm going to start setting up a workout as part of my routine because I'm getting even cabin fever just from being in the house all the time. But the main motivator for me is that I love what I do. I love talking with people. I love growing my network as, my brand. I enjoy growing my brand and making new connections, and actually even reconnecting with old connections as I go about, my days. There's people that have done similar things and you get to talk to them. That's great. You just keep building this online community, and that will become your number one motivator. Is just, you're not so separated from the world as it seems. But my main motivator is just, I'm passionate about what I'm doing, but also I've always been a self-driven kind of person anyway. That's why I enjoy working for myself rather than someone else, because I would always just feel better when I was the one making the shots for my own life. I used to work as a waitress and I hated it. I hated it, working for like $2.20. Yeah. And just, and people are so rude to waitresses. I'm glad that I was a waitress personally, because, you can always tell, like, when you've waited on a waitress, they'll have your plates and everything stacked. And it's just,
I still do that. I haven't been a server since I was maybe 20, but I still stack it up. I tip really well. I'm super nice, even if they kind of suck.
Yeah. Cause you just know that they're going through it.
Yeah. Having an off day as a waitress was me every single day.
Yeah. That's another thing about owning a business, is you still have to have that. I also have that customer service background where you know how to interact with people without letting them bother you. And that's a big part of owning a business, is being able to say no to people that you just can't align with. If your goals and your core values and everything don't match up, it's probably a bad match. If they're showing these red flag signs that, oh, this might not be something I want to work with, don't work with them. That's a big part of not burning out, is not doing things that you don't enjoy in a repetitive manner, because you're gonna, of course, burn out at some point or another doing that.
Let's go into setting up a home office that aligns with everything that you just talked about. I work from everywhere in the house, which is probably not productive, but I haven't set a home office, but it looks like you have. So tell me about it. How'd you do it? What's the quickest way to do it?
I think the quickest way to do it, first of all, is just doing it. Just finding somewhere to set up and do it. And that was a big part for me, is like, I felt I didn't have all the equipment yet, and but as I thought about it, I just kind of built as I went. I kind of bootstrapped it from the bottom up. Right. But I do think there are a few key things that I've done, like getting a brighter lighting, like a brighter light to work with, because it makes me feel more productive, especially being inside and it's all pretty outside. I want as much natural light coming in as possible, and it helps me be more productive. And then also just thinking about where there's the least number of distractions, because there's the reality of working from home, and like a lot of parents know this, there's just distractions. That's how it is. I saw someone on LinkedIn had posted a video. I can't remember her name at the moment because it was the first time I'd seen it, but she was like, so I tried to film a video today, and her kid was just, and that's just the reality of it.
And being able to post that and be like, hey, I'm human, I work from home, is awesome.
Yeah, I know. Just
good
be honest.
Response.
I think that was the most honest, and just those are the kind of pieces of content that I honestly appreciate the most, because they're just raw and they're real and they're authentic, and not authentic in that, created authentic kind of way. It's like just genuine authenticity.
Yeah. So that goes into we're talking about LinkedIn and the social selling during social distancing. How are you doing with that? What are your opinions on social selling?
So the thing that I think most people are making mistakes on is not pausing all the content they previously had scheduled, their campaigns, their advertising, taking a time to pause that and actually just take the time to genuinely be interacting with everyone on the platform right now. I think it's a huge mistake. It's not impossible to socially sell yourself, but don't be salesy as you're doing that. You are genuinely just reaching out into your community and seeing how you can support them best. And with businesses, there's a lot of things you can be doing to support them, helping them make the switch to online. That pivot can be difficult for some people and easy for some. And there's just, the only way to figure that out is to reach out and talk to someone to grow your network, but not also just growing it, just checking in with your past clients and your friends and people that you know throughout the business community, because everyone's going through it at the same time. We're all just kind of navigating this.
Yeah. So I would say so. I'm editing a video right now because Gary Vee put out a piece of content that was like, it takes under 13 seconds to pick up your phone and call someone and brighten their day. So I'm doing a piece on that, but I can't tell you how many people I get daily that add me and they're like, I'm a Bitcoin miner. Can I help you with your Bitcoin? And I'm like, no.
And that goes back into like there's scams out there right now in full effect.
I was just like, I have no interest in that. And B, like, could you have at least said hello first? Damn.
Could we have gotten to know one another first? Yeah, like the other day, I think someone added me and they were talking about like foreign exchange trade or something like that. And I was just like, I'm not interested. Not a good time. You can't have my number. He sent me it was like 7 pages messages, just like back to back. I finally put him on mute.
I did a video about like how I'd rather put syrup all over my face and have a sticky syrup face than get those messages.
Right. Like I would rather touch like, you know how like when you reach out and you touch something sticky and you're just like,
yeah, like a little kid with like sticky fingers, like how that's like the worst feeling in the world. And those messages tops that. I'm like, stop, please stop. And then like one guy, he was just like, service that I time. He sent his sales pitch in the first message, and let's get to know each other more before we pitch. And he was just like, Mariya, LinkedIn is full of networking opportunities. Not everyone's strategy is the same. I was like, oh, okay, I am so sorry. My bad.
Yeah, but at the same time, you are certainly allowed to be caught off by those messages, you know, and his strategy.
I'm just not going to respond to them because I do need services. And if I like your content and I like you, I'm going to use your services.
And that's like the whole thing about like having services. And, you know, some markets can seem really oversaturated, but the whole thing about it is they're not buying that service from you just because they want that service. They're buying that service from you. They're buying you, really. They're buying the experience with you.
Branding.
Yeah, and a lot of that starts with you just make a connection with someone that has a potential to grow into a relationship, and not everyone is meant for that relationship. If you're casting a super wide net for who you like to sell to, if you haven't identified your ideal client, I really recommend to most people to find that before they find themselves. Figure out what you want to do and who you want to do it for before you even go any further.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
Because let me tell you what, there's so many clients out there. When you're first getting started, I remember like any client seems like a good client, but there are people I genuinely do not respond to because I can feel from the gate they're doubtful or argumentative or just some type of vibe. And I'm not going to reply to those people because for my own mental health and for my own happiness, I have to find those people that I work well and collaborate well with. These services a lot of the time have to do with more relationships than they have to do with the actual service. It has to do with what you're doing for someone or what kind of problem you have figured out to solve that you just want to solve for these types of people, these types of people.
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things. Do they love you? Can you get them results? Those two things are in order, they're going to pick you.
Right. And the thing is, if you love what you do, you're going to be good at what you do. It's going to be you that knows how to be that expert of your niche because it's something that you are passionate about. It is something that you are driven by to do. And that is really where you need to start at the root of where you find something that you love to do and a problem that you might learn to solve because of that thing you know how to do, and you talking about it, you promoting it, or you bringing it to a collaborative effort is what people that work with you are going to be in it for.
Absolutely.
And so at the same time, like, I think a lot of the smaller questions that I'd gotten on that story was like, what's the difference in starting your own business? But if you're not really ready to go from employee to entrepreneur, what do you do, especially being stuck from home? Like, what's freelancing? I got a lot of those questions, or like, what's the most in demand skills for freelancing or the highest paid freelancing opportunities? And I think there's a lot of mixed answers about that online.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think freelancing is the perfect thing to do if you're not ready to quit your day job, but you do want to go in the direction of starting your own company, start getting clients, do some freelance work, build it up, and then you can totally take it. You can take all of those clients and build a company, and you have social proof right there.
Right.
But
there's plenty of
I have no idea. I would imagine marketing would be the easiest way to go about it, because that's the only thing I know.
That's what you're passionate. Well, that's what you're passionate about, what you started your business around. So I think with the freelancing, I did have a lot of experience trying that out. And there's a lot of ways that freelancing, I think, is just quieted entrepreneurship, because as a freelancer, if you call yourself a freelancer, people are just like, I'm a freelancer. Yeah. You know, especially on those platforms, there's so many people bidding on the same opportunity, and not all of these opportunities are even real people. It can be really discouraging, but there is possibilities out there. And the best way I was able to freelance was by doing the same thing I do as an entrepreneur. It's just like quieted entrepreneurship. I was reaching out to people in my network, telling them I had this skill that I could bring to their table, which at the time was digital marketing and content creation. And I was really good at creating content. And as I looked at it, I was more and more passionate about it. I was like, why am I not being the owner of the face behind the scenes? Like, why can't I start a business? So it was about making that leap after that. Freelancing is just quieted entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I mean, I get that because I do a lot of ghostwriting for my clients.
Yeah.
Where, I am the behind the scenes person, but, I have within, I would say, I mean, but I was like the side gig queen, man. When I started my company, I was doing WAG, I was doing Rover, I was doing Eats, Grubhub, Uber Eats. I had every like side gig known to man, but I did not have any sort of full-time employment. But I like freelancers. I just found a guy on Upwork that I love. He's awesome. He's super qualified. I mean, I know that I have had a few on Fiverr that I was like kind of less than thrilled with, but I think that freelancers, if they know what they're doing, it's a perfect way to segue into entrepreneurship and owning your own company.
It's a great place to figure out where you like to do what you do. Like, you get to figure out what it is you like doing.
Yeah.
I think I had a lot of the freelance work that I did. A lot of it was in super different segments and categories. And I'm thankful for finding those opportunities, because it can get discouraging at first, but the more you do what you're good at and what you're passionate about, the more that you build upon it, and you'll have a portfolio before you know it. I mean, when I first set up my portfolio, a lot of the work in it was not for genuine clients, but work that I did to actually pitch to people on these freelance platforms, because it's so hard to make a connection that a lot of the times I would provide them with a sample of what I felt like I could do for them.
Yeah, I mean, social proof has been huge because I managed to bring on some fairly large clients right at the beginning, and the progression of what I've done for them in those different specific markets have been huge because now I can be like, I've done the exact same thing for this person. These are the results they got, and it takes you from being unqualified and risky to, wow, this person really make this work.
I think a huge part of that is that so many people are implementing video or audio and into their strategies, their content marketing. And that includes, past client testimonials. That includes, word
I
of
haven't
mouth.
done that yet. I've asked for video
And
testimonials and I haven't posted them.
I think that's like a huge part of it too, is like people kind of like, I was at first and I still kind of am nervous to ask for a referral. But usually the way that I do it is I've set up not only like a welcome packet, but a goodbye packet with them. And that's just a great way to throw in, kind of a request for a referral. And if they loved what you did for them, and they're going to when you're doing something that you're good at and that you're passionate about for someone, after that experience with you, they'll be thrilled to throw you a referral. And if you're offering to come film for them, offer to film, like throw in like a extra for them, like film a brand video for them, and that could open up a whole new contract for you. Just being
Typically my contracts that they start with one thing and then they add services, and that's, but getting referrals from my clients has been huge too, because I get 99% of my business off of LinkedIn, but then all those people are giving me referrals, so I've been able to work through referrals too, and it's so easy because they already trust you.
word of mouth referrals is still, I think, the biggest marketing tactic strategy that you can have for your business. To begin with, word of mouth referrals are huge. They are make or break some people, actually. But when you're getting in good, and that's a part of social listening, and that's a part of listening to your clients anyway, and being able to retain them, is being able to listen to them and figure out what they loved, what they didn't love, what worked in their opinion, what didn't work in their opinion. And a lot of the times, as you build upon it, you'll start to get tons and tons of testimonials, referrals at the same time.
Yeah, I think I was just on a podcast last night that they asked me, like, what video content do you post? And I'm like, lighthearted, kind of funny, humorous ones, because I am a lighthearted person. I want people to connect with me, to know that I'm not going to be a hard person to work with. I have a sense of humor, yet I have this skill that can take them to the next level. It's like my video, like, well, look at how my video did. Like, I can do that for you, and I'm fun to work with. And like, I got like a CEO of like, it was like 100-person company that, you just think he'd be a super serious guy, right? And he was just like, I love the video of you doing an Easter hunt with your dad. That's
Yeah.
cool. I want to set up a meeting about our content strategy. And I'm like, sweet. So you'd be surprised where, like, instead of just like being all professional all the time and just being a robot, like,
Yeah.
have some fun with it. Like, that's what this whole social selling and being yourself is all about, because you can show that you're not going to be that guy that is just obnoxious to work with, because everything
You're
is so
still going to meet those people, though. You still are going to meet those people, but when you're like genuinely putting yourself out there, you're genuinely meeting people like you. You're going to meet people that are gravitated towards you. And that's the great thing about technology, is that none of us are really alone at this point in time. We are thankfully at the point in technology where we can connect with each other still. And that changes. That's a game changer. And then also the biggest game changer after that is just showing up, just being visible, just putting yourself out there and genuinely moving past the fear of what you might think somebody's going to judge you or something. That has stopped me in the past. And I tell you, there's so much out here on the internet. There's so much content out there. There's too many people out there to be worried about that. I think Jasmine Starr touched on this yesterday, and she was talking about that 1% of your life that you show people. Who cares if they don't like it? Like, shake it off.
Like, if someone doesn't like that I'm being human, well, I don't want to work with you anyway. I don't give
Right.
Shit.
Shit. It's just like the life's too short. You got to move past the people that don't make sense for your life and what you're working towards.